Hi everyone, welcome to Hack Mankind. I'm here today with Ed Lane. Now, Ed's intro is a little bit convoluted because basically he's just phenomenal at anything he chooses to put his hand to. But when Ed's with us, he's our health and fitness guru and peak performance coach. So what Ed's here to talk about today is easiest summarized back to you in your personal perception. So have you ever looked at somebody that's doing really well at something, whether it's their health or their fitness, or whether it's weight loss, or whether it's finance or business or relationships, and you just don't get it? It just doesn't make sense. You're like pushing and pushing, and no matter how hard you push, you don't get that same result. Now, what you might not realize is that other person is looking at you going, why don't they get it? So there's this dichotomy, and it's an interesting one. It's something that Ed and I have discussed before in various different ways. So Ed, over to you. What's your thoughts? Let's see if we can summarize this in a way people can understand what it is I just tried to say.
Well, I think when you said that, the first thing that came to my mind was the first story the first time I ever noticed this was, I think in primary school. You would get if you spend time with the thin girls, let's say, and they would be saying about the larger girls, because sorry girls, but towards the end of primary school they start getting quite bitchy with each other, and they would say, why is she so fat? She's lazy, she overeats, right? And then you would spend time with the larger girls and they would say, I hate Sarah. She can eat and eat and eat and eat and eat and not put on any weight. And they don't realize that they're both doing this crossover conversation where one of them is guessing the experience of one and the other one is guessing the experience of the other. When actually, if the two of them switched positions and switched bodies, they would naturally start gravitating towards the results of the body that they have, but they wouldn't know why. And it's because during childhood, we get all of these ingrained beliefs. We're just fortunate to have had the parents, and those parents had their parents, and those parents had their parents. We're just fortunate enough to have these ingrained beliefs that we don't even know that we've got, that tend to result in the success that we're looking for, or tend to result in the failure at the same time. So rather than people thinking it's my intelligence that's taken me here, it's the stuff that I'm choosing, it's my brilliance that is causing this result, it's almost never that. And I think that this is a conversation that needs to be had, because there are so many people that are successful in each area just because they've gone about doing the things the way that they do them, and have naturally been successful in that area, or have always been successful in that area, which is in the particular case of, let's say, maintaining a particular type of amount of body fat, for example.
So there's an interesting study on this, Ed, and it was about people that think they're lucky. So they took, I don't know if it was 100 or 500,000 people, and asked them, do you generally regard yourself as a lucky person? Yes or no? And then they walked them from one building to another building. And the people that defined themselves as lucky were 3 times more likely to see the $100 bill that was on the floor. So people that define themselves as unlucky, every single person walked past a $100 bill on the floor on their way to the other room for the examination, for the thing. And people that define themselves as unlucky were 3 times less likely to see the $100 bill that they walked past. It wasn't hidden from them, there was no difference. But because they believed they were lucky, because that was ingrained in them, I think this is kind of what you're saying, there's a whole host of other things that then go around that they don't even realize they're doing. So they're more sensory aware, they're more aware of their environment, and that probably means that they think they're lucky.
Well, I'm sure that plays into it, and it is a really interesting study. And I've actually heard of companies hiring on that question in interviews, but you can still consider yourself unlucky and have a low body fat, or you can still consider yourself unlucky and be financially successful. You just might look at yourself as financially less successful compared to somebody
Sure.
else, right?
Yeah, I wasn't mapping belief of luck to the things that you just said. I was saying that the way that somebody has a belief will materialize itself in ways that they wouldn't necessarily then expect. That's what I was saying.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So that the person with $100, they weren't luckier. Every single person walked past the $100 bill. They weren't more lucky. They were just more sensory aware than the people that walked past it and didn't see it. And that's kind of what I meant, was they believe they are lucky, whereas actually their sensory awareness is higher than somebody else. And I'm sure a whole set of other stuff. People that believe they are destined to be fat are probably actually, hopefully, not destined to be fat, but actually have a whole set of other things that they don't even believe are happening that lead to that end conclusion where they are.
Absolutely. So how is it that you could perhaps, to make this useful rather than just intellectual posturing, how do you create that? Well, first and foremost, you need to start looking at the environment that you're spending time in, right? Rather than trying to hack what all of the possible beliefs you need to acquire might be. It's like Jim Rohn said, you're the average of the 5 people you spend most of your time with. So how do you start subtly shifting that average? I mean, there's a study that's mentioned in a book that's in my bookcase, but the name escapes me. But it's a study where it's kind of demonstrated that obesity is contagious, and when they kind of map to what's actually happening, it's kind of just subtle things like eating speed, or a parent believing that when they disappear off into another room to, let's say, eat a chocolate bar, but always presenting the best food to the children, this behavior starts presenting in the children quite early on, because they are acutely aware of it, because they're not stupid, they're just small. And
well, they might be stupid, but just because
occasionally
they are
stupid.
Well, Ed, let's take a perfect example of this, because I'm always willing to be the vulnerable guinea pig. So I'm sure you can remember this. I hope you can, because I can. So when I was saying to you, Ed, I just need to find the willpower and system to not eat the carbs and the chocolate in my house. So this is from my coaching with Ed, one-on-one, previous to Hack Mankind. Ed, do you remember what you said as your piece of advice when I said, we went through this hour thing, and I was saying, I need to stop eating this, I need to do this, I need to do that, and I don't need to eat crumpets, I need to eat bread, and I need to not eat the chocolate. Maybe I'll move it away from eye level. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I could put it in a cupboard. Do you remember what your advice was?
Well, I don't remember the exact phrase, but why would you have it in your house if you don't want to eat it?
That was it. Don't buy it in the first place. And I think that's a perfect example of executing on your environment versus trying to work on. And this is something that throughout each of your talks on Hack Mankind has been a relevant theme, right? Of you don't necessarily need to work internally. You could often just work externally, right? Do the easy thing.
Yeah. Introverts always want it to be internal work, right? And extroverts always want it to be external, but it's always a mixture of both.
Well, I think the problem is that, as I've said before, I think you and I will always be poor, because the advice of just don't buy it really doesn't fill a book. The people that want to sell this to people need systems, they need processes, they need 12 steps this, they need things they can write about. Whereas everything we talked about at Hack Mankind is, if you want to be more effective today, drink a glass of water whilst you're listening to this. Ta-da! The end. That's it. You will be more effective. Yep. If you want to condition your mind, surround yourself with positive influences. If you want to be thin, don't hang around fat people. Right? With all the love, I'm overweight as well. So all the love to anyone that's overweight, I'm not exactly sitting here as a paradigm of virtue. Okay, so the people that are being financially successful are looking at the people that aren't and saying, this isn't hard, why can't you get this? And the people that are sitting on the other side of the equation are looking at those going, wow, how did you do that? And your belief or proof, that's a question, is if we swap these people around, they would end up back to where they they were. So if we took the rich
Yeah.
person and put them in a poor person, they'd end up rich again.
Absolutely. Just because there are a whole host of beliefs and there's a whole series of foundations upon which we're built, right? We all have Christian values because we all came from this kind of book that spanned thousands and thousands of generations, and we all kind of still map back to that, whether we've got the God belief or not, right? Because all of our beliefs and perceptions have been acquired, and our values have been acquired over years and years and years, and generations and generations and generations and generations. So different systems pass on. I was speaking to a friend yesterday who's an accountant in one of the top 4, and he was telling me about this wealth hack about how incredibly wealthy people maintain their money, right? And it was something that he was like, this was a revelation for him, but everybody else in his office knew, having had wealthy parents, of how to do it. He was like, why was I never told that it was this simple to pay less tax by owning properties, right? You don't get wealthy from the money you earn, you get wealthy from buying the property and paying less tax on the money that you get back from and it's just a small example of stuff that occasionally it pops out above where you go, oh yeah, that's common sense. And because it's common sense, nobody seems to pass it on. It goes invisible. We end up not being able to see the belief so that we can challenge it. And I guess one of the really powerful ways that we can find our own is to start questioning all of the ways that we're out of control. Because humans just are far less in control of themselves than they believe themselves to be. And, we sometimes will do something and we feel purposeful, and sometimes we'll do something and we don't. But we don't know why we felt purposeful there and not there. It's like, it could have been the exact reverse for you. So we know that purpose is just something that's kind of ingrained, and inspiration is something, and our feelings and our impulses and our dreams is kind of like there's something running on autopilot in there. And every time we try and fight those things, we actually end up depressed or in a worse shape than when we started. But we're told really early on in life, it's these things that you need to fight. It's these things that are going to lead you astray, rather than going, oh, I wonder if they're actually trying to tell me something so that I can make adjustments. Well, let's say you hate your job. Why do I hate my job? Well, you could think universally, I hate my job. Or it could be that a slight shift in your job would make it more purposeful to you, because you're now in alignment with stuff that you find inspiring and stuff that you can look back at the end of the day, even if it's not the best route there. Another example would be, a really simple example would be, I helped one of my clients recently switch everything that he was doing with his health to be data driven, because he loves data. And he ended up changing everything that he was doing to be not the best, right? To not the best system, but rather the most data driven system, so that he could look at that data and see it growing over time. And his progress just skyrocketed because he enjoyed the numbers and he enjoyed the feedback system that he was using. So he found it motivating or inspiring, however what you want to think about it. And another one would be hunger. Let's say, why do I eat chocolate all the time? Ask yourself rather than ask somebody else. Why do I eat chocolate all the time? And you may come back with, because I don't eat enough food. You'll probably come back with, because I don't eat enough food, right? And so then you go, okay, I've given myself advice. Can I take that and then see if I eat less chocolate? Why am I tired all of the time? Because I don't eat enough food. Oh, well, maybe I could try eating enough food. And I'm not saying that that's the answer that you will get back. What I'm saying is, every time you experience a feeling or a sensation, or you'll see yourself doing a thing that you don't want to do, Start asking yourself why, as if your body and your feelings are on your side rather than they're these out of control demons, because that's kind of where mental illness lives, right?
Yeah, and I can relate to that. If I was to, I had a bad food day a couple of days ago, and I went through exactly this process. Why did that happen? And when I looked at because I do like measuring stuff, when I looked at my calorie intake throughout the day, it was next to zero. I hadn't eaten anything good or healthy or literally anything all day. And like, wow, why at midnight did I eat 2 crumpets and da 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 da? It's because my body was going, I need food. I need food and I need it now. And I ate so much that I put myself in a blood sugar coma and fell asleep on the sofa, had a bad night's sleep, woke up the next day, I felt like crap.
Why am I tired? Oh.
Yeah, exactly. And but I think one of the interesting ones for me, I know this is slightly off topic, is it took me, I don't know, 20 years to work out that tired was not just a result of sleep. It sounds perverse, but I'm more tired if I'm dehydrated than I am if I haven't had sleep. If I have 4 hours sleep and I've eaten well, exercised, and drunk water, I'm relatively okay the next day. Whereas if I've had 10 hours sleep, but I've eaten like crap and I haven't drunk water, I'm relatively bad the next day. And I remember walking into the gym with you once when I'd done a intermittent fasting day, the first time I did it. And I said to you, I'm really hungry. And I said, I've got no energy. And you said, are you sure about that? Challenge the feeling inside you. Are you absolutely sure that's how you feel? And I'm like, actually, no, I'm not hungry. I do feel the energy. I am hungry, but I don't have any less energy. And it was until that day that I had those 2 things tied together. Food and energy for me were absolutely tied together in a 1-to-1 ratio. And when you asked me to actually think about it, I literally just genuinely stopped and think. I was like, no, I'm damn hungry. I'm definitely hungry. But you're right. Energy-wise, no, I'm absolutely fine. Okay, so we took this off track. So number 1, you said, was look at your environment. And that's where we talked about the 5 closest people to you. So number 1 is look at your environment. Number 2 is challenge those, is ask yourself why those things are occurring, what beliefs are underpinning them. Is that what we're getting to?
Yes, but rather than this kind of scrabbling around to find beliefs, as people talk about, you need to find your limiting beliefs. Well, they're attached to the story. They're the stories that come back from your feelings, or they're the stories that are attached to your feelings so much that you haven't looked at them, just like you demonstrated there. Why am I tired? Why am I reaching for this food? Why am I not taking this action? Why am I not making that phone call? Why am I not doing the thing that I need to do? Or why am I feeling this way? And then trust the answer that comes back and play with that, experiment with that.
I think your body and brain are incredibly smart, but I think they've got a crappy vocab.
Absolutely, thank you. I do have I mean, I'm working on it, but
no. But if I ask you a question as another human being, you verbalize that answer, you put it into words, and you will answer me, and I can go, okay, and I can like cognitively try and work that through. But because my brain, body, soul, spirit can't actually talk to me, but it can, you just ask the question, it'll tell you. The thought will appear. You don't trust it as much. I think I had a coach once told me that emotions are like when you own a dog. If you've never owned a dog before, you just hear a dog bark. And I got bitten by a dog when I was a kid, so I used to be really scared of dogs. And I lived in a house with 2 massive German Shepherds. When I had to move out of my house, and I was scared witless. And the owner said, listen, you're just misunderstanding this. The only words they have is bark, right? That's the only thing they can do. So whether they're tired, angry, happy, sad, hungry, horny, scared, whatever it might be, they're going to bark because that's their vocab. They're just, unlike us, we've got 20,000 odd words or whatever, 80,000, but dogs have 1. They've got like 1 word and maybe a whimper and a whine and a bark. That's about it. And a couple of years ago, a coach said, your emotions are very similar, right? Your emotions are there as signposts and flags to help you understand So if you're scared of something, that you can't dismiss it. It's valid. But if you ask yourself why you're scared, you'll get deeper. So see your emotions as signposts towards your beliefs in those stories versus just see them as something to dismiss. Now, don't push through fear. Ask yourself why you're scared. I think that was a really useful piece of advice.
I agree.
So how do we all get richer? How do we get richer? How do we get richer? How do we get thinner? Sum that up for us.
Well, first and foremost, it's, you know, changing the narrative, right? Finding new people to spend time with so that you don't need to track down those beliefs, and then start asking yourself, you know, how do I make this more fun? You know, what needs to happen? What would I notice if I was moving towards this thing? Because in order to start doing new things, you have to, you know, it's going to feel uncomfortable. If it doesn't feel a little bit uncomfortable, then chances are it isn't very new. So start changing the people that you hang around with, not entirely all of them, right? But a little bit less time with one or a little bit more time with another is, you know, one of the greatest effects of hiring a personal trainer isn't necessarily what the trainer gets you to do. It's hanging out with one extra person, because when you look at, let's say you see them 3 hours a week, that's probably more time than you spend with most people in a week. If you totaled it up one-to-one time, you spend 3 hours with a personal trainer, your perspectives are going to shift if you get along well. So you'll probably get better results from a personal trainer that you get along with than you will from one that you don't, even if they're better. Even if they know the science better and they're going to give you the best method. The one that you go, actually, I quite like spending time with that person. I'm actually changing my perception of what healthy people are like or whatever, will be the thing that creates a whole host of beliefs that you just didn't realize, and they just start slowly changing. So finding people to spend time with, looking at the things in your environment that currently support you staying where you are, and then subtly changing them, right? All habits that we have, our brain has gone, and let's move that thing a little bit closer, a little bit closer, a little bit closer, so that it's easier and easier and easier and easier to produce the behavior that that you now don't want. So asking yourself, how am I, now I'm going to change my behavior. How is my environment constructed to make me mess up? And then change that about the environment. So is that step 2 or step number 3? And then start seeing how you feel, asking how you feel about certain things and checking in with those and asking what they're trying to tell you.
So 1, the people I spend time with. 2, the environment that I construct to support the old beliefs versus the new beliefs. And 3, check in with myself and ask myself why I'm doing the things I'm doing.
Absolutely. Based on how you feel.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Final thoughts?
Those were that. That was those.
That was it. That was final thoughts.
That's it. That's all, folks.
So to everybody that's seen this, Hack Mankind, thank you so much for tuning in. You've been here with Ed Lay, our health, fitness, performance guru, coach, specialist, in times idiot savant, and myself, who tries to keep this all in some kind of package, Peter Swain. Thank you so much. Remember, live without fear and seek information. Thank you, Ed. Speak soon.
Cheers. Thanks, Pete.